this is apparently all about doomsday. So let's get into some doomsday and why billionaires are buying land on high ground. Sounds like fun, right? Let's get into it. Let's watch this video.
What if we all have this inner force but is dormant in 99% of the population? In rare cases, that force awakens in a very small percentage of individuals and suddenly they realize.
Tearing apart the veil, the upcoming event that brings revelation, chaos, and a new beginning. Here's the deal, like, when is this hitting? When is this hitting? That's what I'm worried, not worried about, that's what I'm curious about, like, honestly. And can I just be under the nuke?
Reality changes.
I don't know why you build a
happening right now.
Whatever, dude. I have like a doomsday thing. I'm like,
this force in humanity.
Let's just see.
What if there is a reason why people are feeling weird recently?
Are people feeling weird recently?
There's a sense of urgency because, people said, well, why now? Well, because it's not on our time scale, not on our timeline. It's not up to us. They're here, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. They're here.
Who?
Number one, it's not what you think it is. It's not coming from other planets. The evidence doesn't suggest that.
Interdimensional.
Yes.
Oh, good. Tom DeLonge is in here. Oh, okay. So this is Open-Minded Approach's video.
One of the things that we noticed in these individuals, and this is sort of a side study which I'm working on with a group at Harvard, is we noticed that an area of the brain, the caudate putamen, in many of these individuals was overdeveloped. That's a whole other story, but basically we figured out that this is an area where intuition happens, and a lot of these individuals who we had were, let's call them high functioning. You don't get to be a pilot of a expensive craft without being reasonably smart and having intuition. Just a side benefit of studying this allowed...
What is this? Let me move my shit. What is this? More than movement control, episodic memory, crystallized intelligence, cognitive control, fluid intelligence, category, learning, and high performers.
Allowed us to come up with a medical understanding of where cognition is happening in the brain, and we're following up with that in a mainstream science way with a neurophysiology group at Harvard.
Professor Gary Nolan indicates that the experiencers of the UAP phenomenon for which he had access to their brain scans exhibit overdeveloped features in the caudate and putamen areas of the brain. He emphasized that those areas of the brain are where intuition occurs. Their research leads them to believe that experiencers are able to interact with or encounter the phenomenon because of this development.
So, like,
that change in the brain?
Is UAP like aliens and shit? UAP definition? What does that mean? UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena. So kinda just like a catch-all for all this type of shit. UFOs. It's a term used to describe airborne transmedium, able to travel across different mediums like air and water, or submerged objects or devices that are not immediately identifiable and whose behavior suggests they may not be from Earth, okay? The term replaced the older UFO in official context. Okay, so it's the new UFO. UAP is the new UFO. Orange is the new black. Curvy is the new fat.
First, let's visit the South Atlantic anomaly. The South Atlantic anomaly is near Earth region where Earth's magnetic field is weakest relative to an idealized Earth-centered dipole field. This anomaly has been observed to be increasing in intensity recently. There are many anomalies, UAP sightings, cryptid creatures and chupacabras witnessed in South America and the Amazon forest.
Really?
One of the most famous and terrifying cases is the Colares incident in Brazil, which I have a video about, and the recent incidents in Peru. But how is this anomaly related to the brain
Giant yellow-eyed aliens. It's all in South
changes that Gary
America?
Nolan was talking about? From this study, we can see the direct connection of extremely low power frequency that leads to increased melatonin levels in the brain. And from this study, we can see that the pineal gland's hormone melatonin appears to have an influence on the caudate putamen.
So more pineal activity. That's interesting. The more open and active your pineal gland is, the more you see this shit. That kind of makes sense.
Pineal gland's hormone melatonin appears to have an influence on the caudate putamen.
And then, like, since we're getting into like weird shit that's like kind of going into conspiracy theory shit, fluoride is supposed to be calcifier of the pineal gland. So, are they trying to hide extraterrestrial shit with that?
Specifically on the spontaneous neuronal activity in the brain region. It can affect the activity of neurons in the coded putamen, and perhaps this is what's causing the overdevelopment in the brains of the experiencers. So people living in certain regions where there is a magnetic anomaly can develop this feature and have spontaneous glimpses of the phenomenon. This study discusses how magnetic fields, both permanent and oscillating, can influence genes and DNA, and from this study we can see how similar species can inherit gene variations based on the magnetic field. So perhaps one can inherit these changes in the coded and putamen from their ancestors who lived in those areas with magnetic anomalies for generations. Even if they don't live anymore in those anomalous places, they may still inherit that trait. This would also explain the phenomenon in places like the Skinwalker Ranch. In my opinion, if you live long enough in areas with magnetic anomalies, you'll start experiencing glimpses of the phenomenon. Those areas can be large like the South Atlantic anomaly or small like a village or even a ranch. But what do these people see, and can we all experience the same thing?
Yeah, can we?
We don't see light which is beyond UV and beyond infrared. We hear only a limited scale of vibrations, like for instance, we hear anywhere from 52 to 20,000 maximum. In other words, all our senses are limited. So, with these limited senses, we naturally are seeing through a very narrow kind of tube or very narrow slit in the total reality there is. Now, as you're evolving, what happens is that slit opens up more and more and more. So you see more and more of that reality, and we assume that we see different realities. They're not very different realities, but rather a very extended, broad view of one very large reality.
Isn't it kind of like seeing colors? Like if you're colorblind, then suddenly you get to see color. You're not really seeing a different reality. You're just seeing more of the same reality you've been in. I think that's what he's saying.
This square, okay, represent. I don't know if you can see it with the glare. Hopefully,
Yeah,
you can see. This
we can
square
see
on
it.
this piece of paper
Yeah.
represents the human body. Okay, and the human body has something inside the circle which is called a brain, and that brain resides inside the body, and the brain is responsible for certain functions and biological functions that keep the body alive, keeps your heart rate going and your breathing. And your body, coincidentally, is also responsible for keeping the brain alive through circulatory processes and whatnot.
They're
so the
friends.
brain needs the body, and the body needs the brain. And so the brain is responsible for thinking, the body is responsible for protecting and moving and sustaining. And that's what a lot of people consider life. But there's another element. There's another element to the human being, and possibly to all sentient life. And that is the notion of this triangle.
Oh.
And that triangle is
the dreaded triangle.
what some have referred to as the soul or the id or the chi or the spirit, right? It is something that does reside inside the body, but is not contained necessarily with inside the body. And is it possible that consciousness is part of that process, that spirit, that thing that is all encompassing of what
Isn't
a human
that-
being really is, the essence, if you will.
Isn't conscious like that is, right? All right. Am I getting my woo-woo teachings wrong? But isn't spirit consciousness? Isn't consciousness spirit and all that?
Imagine distilling a human being down to its actual essence, and that is what you have left over once the carbon of the body is gone and whatnot, the organics, if you will. What's left behind? And that is the great mystery of the universe, because that it is possible to some degree. Some people have speculated that's maybe how people can remote view and psychic abilities and all these things that seem to be paranormal, when in reality may have a very perfectly rational explanation. It's just part of a hidden kingdom. But a hidden kingdom to which we're all connected.
Everything you see is one band of frequencies. The highest frequency is light, unified mind. The lowest frequency would be blackness, absence of love, absence of whatever. Right. And physical matter is somewhere right in the middle, right? So you have the ability to tune up higher or tune down lower, and behavior and all these things and time, and it all fucking comes together. But what it means also is that your brain is what's called a transducer. You're an antenna.
So these are okay experiences. In the negative side, it may certainly open you up to.
It's so funny, like Tom DeLonge's crazy, but in like the best way. I love listening to him, and I agree with half the things he says. The other half, it's not that I don't agree. It's just like unfounded to me.
Astral plane.
There is also that weird shit where he had his like whole like UFO company, and he wanted investors, but there was like some weird stuff in the what do you call that? Is it the terms of service, the TOS, whatever, where he was gonna get like paid 150 grand a year or something, regardless of what happens. I thought that was weird that was in there.
Where there are all sorts of dangerous entities.
But I like
You'll
him.
get scared. You'll lose your sleep. You'll lose your mind.
To better understand what is happening, let's examine it from an evolutionary perspective. There may be natural forces at play that will cause a sudden leap in our evolution, which I will discuss later in the video.
Now, there is some backthrow. That is, there are some people here in this area, very few people who are still gorilla-like. That is, hairy. They beat their chest when they see their neighbors and a few other things. And then we have other people who are here in this corner, very few of them, who are very highly developed, because we say that evolution is now pushing mankind in this direction, away from the gorilla types towards the very highly evolved people. At this point, we're here. What's going to happen maybe 1 million years from now, 500,000 years from now? This curve is going to shift. It's going to shift like this. That is, the bulk of the population will be very, very highly evolved. We have gone away altogether from the gorilla types, no more gorillas. And what we have here now is the average man, in evolutionary terms. The bulk of the population is extremely, very, very highly evolved. And the cutting edge of evolution here, these are very, very highly evolved people.
I mean, that's happening now. I guess that's his point. This is how the evolution of the mind
imagine
works,
what kind of person that will be. He may not have a physical body. What's the habitat, so to speak, of this group here? Well, you just go out and you find them. They're all over the place. The habitat of this group here, what do you think? Where do you think you find these people here?
I suspect that you would find them in universities. You'd find the people who are very bright, people who are in the leading edge of professions. I mean, it's an intellectual thing.
Well, I suggest that you find them in mental hospitals, in nut houses. And the reason for that is that these people, they live in a different reality, in a reality which is very changed, and few of them are adapted to live in this reality. So naturally, they can't function very well.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, like, because even look at, like, real-life examples of people just discovering shit before, like, stuff we take totally for granted now. Like, there was that nurse, I think it was, that suggested that doctors should wash their hands and their clothes before doing doctor shit, because there's invisible things that get the next person sick. You know, we call that just germs today, and it's it's accepted everywhere except for like one country, which has a lot of doctors. Thinking of the fucking viral food market videos. We don't need to say the country, but whatever. You know what I'm going for. Either way, the point is, you know, that person was put into a psych ward for suggesting that and saying that, you know, there's germs on our hands and doctors should clean their hands patient to patient. Now, it's so common. Your doctor walks in the room and washes his hands when he enters the room to meet with you, and then he washes his hands before he leaves the room, or she, right? So that would have gone in the
good place for them.
Psych
would be
ward.
The mental hospital, unless they can integrate their different view of reality with their daily lives. Now, if they can integrate it, then we have people like like Newton, like Darwin, like Faraday. These are the so-called geniuses.
Some believe that evolution is guiding us towards understanding and being able to perceive the ultimate reality. But what if there is a trigger that could speed up that process? Natural triggers and purposely designed triggers by certain people with occult knowledge. And what if we are approaching a major trigger event?
I had an experience in London once
There we go. We're back in it.
that I still don't understand to this day. It was like, I don't know why this always happens at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's
Dude,
hilarious,
that
for a
3
lot of
o'clock
people.
in the morning. Maybe he'll get into it, but like the 3 to 4 a.m. is a fucking wild time. I kind of want to shift my sleep schedule so I start waking up at like 2:30 or like 3 o'clock and do my meditation then. I really want to meditate right after waking up in the early morning. Just so hard to have the motivation when you're like sleepy, but that's apparently like a really powerful time to meditate. But either way, like, what was it? Probably 15 years ago, I used to have a completely opposite sleep schedule, and I would be up at that time. And I swear to God, I heard like it sounds crazy, but I've talked to like several people about it, and they're like, it's not that crazy. They're woo-woo people who might be kind of crazy, but definitely in those early hours, I'd like go out to have a cigarette in the dead silence of night around 3 a.m. and I would just hear screaming. It was like crazy, but not like a single scream, like multiple people screaming. And it was trippy as shit. Wasn't that scary, but really trippy. And then like after a few months of it happening, I talked to one of those woo-woo people, and they're like, oh, well, that is the witching hour. So there's, that's a thing. Well, let's see what this guy has to say about 3 a.m.
And I woke up and my whole body was just pulsing with like some sort of electric fire, like nothing I'd ever felt before. And feel it, but hear it and feel it from the tip of my toes to my fingers, whole body. And right as
What if you were just tired and hallucinating? That could have been it, but I don't know. I think my schedule at that time was like I was waking up around like somewhere between noon and 2 p.m. and I would go to bed around like 7 to 9 a.m. ish. Loose numbers there. But so I don't know. I don't think I was that tired. That was kind of my schedule at the time. Yeah.
woke up, it wasn't even words. It was more like but it was clear. It was the words, "This is how you connect." And it went on for about 15 seconds. And then I just said, whatever, stop. This has got to stop. And it stopped.
That's wild too about that shit. That's wild too. So like about a year and a half ago, I was really deep in this like meditation shit I was doing. And like I would get flashes of like white light while I was meditating, but then it started to like dip into like I would get it like when I was in bed, and like sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night and close my eyes. Like it happened a lot for a little bit. And it was just like so bright, and when you're trying to sleep with that bright light going there, it's really difficult. But if you just kind of tell that thing, whatever you want to call that it is something. If you just say like, all right, I'm over it. Like I don't want to see this anymore. It does go away, kind of, most of the time. But then it's one of those weird things that when you want it, it won't come. Because I've like wanted it to come back. And ever since I've had that like desire to have it come back, it hasn't really come back. Can't really manufacture
I had control
it,
over it. But again, where did this voice come from? I mean, maybe it was a dream. The voice was a dream voice of some sort, but the feeling was not. I'd never had any feeling like that before. Interestingly, the next evening, it happened again at about the same time, but only a very fractional sense of it. So I came back and I asked Jacques, I said, what could that have been? And he said, well, maybe it was a Kundalini event or something like that. So I went and read about Kundalini, never heard of it before. It didn't seem to match any of that.
Before you were talking about the people who were the mutants, either being in the mental hospitals or being geniuses. Yeah. These are people who have expanded perception, and hence they can see a reality which ordinary people at this stage of evolution are not able to see.
Correct.
What is the nature of that reality which they're able to see?
Well, that is classified as a non-physical reality sometimes. We can take an example. Say, well, let's take a simple example. The family sitting at dinner table, and say there's a kid, maybe 15 years old, 16 years old, and he looks up and suddenly he says to his mother, "Hey, Ma, look at there's our dead grandmother is standing in the corner." Mother looks around and says, "No, oh, there's no grandmother there." And she says, "Well, kiddo, there's something wrong with you. You need help."
You're crazy.
So you're crazy. So she takes him off to the friendly neighborhood psychiatrist, and same thing happens. The psychiatrist will ask him, "Well, kiddo, what do you see?" "Well, you'll see, well, don't you see, doctor, over there in the corner, don't you see this person standing there?" Well, the psychiatrist turns around, "No, there's no such thing." Well, and then the psychiatrist says, "Oh, young fella, you're in troubles," and then he writes out a little prescription for a little Thorazine or electroshock or whatever, and pretty soon, in a matter of 2 weeks, kid is back in shape, very normal.
No longer sees the
No longer sees anything.
Yeah.
I wonder, like,
So the process has been
yeah,
reversed.
that's
This
that
is
kind of
called a
answered it.
psychotic episode, or acute schizophrenic break, or whatever it is.
And what you would say is that there's a good chance that that kid is seen.
The kid has a spontaneous opening of his senses.
So that the evolution has been rushed up or
Right.
hurried up?
Yeah. Now, this actually happens. There are techniques to do this, but the Eastern people, the yogis, have developed systems to do this, to push the nervous system rapidly. But it happens very often spontaneously without someone trying to do anything about it, and just happens.
If it happens unrestricted, unrestricted means out of the blue, it kind of happens. Sometimes once in a while there may be cases somebody have had an accident or something and suddenly that it gets triggered. It's not going to happen if a comfortable lifestyle is going on. That trigger may be through stress, through pain, through something like that, through intense spiritual practices, or if you are Arjuna in the battlefield, suddenly the realization comes to you that you are going to kill your relatives. You can't do that, so you are running away. So that's a stressful condition of the mind. Okay, so you have to get...
I wonder if that's kind of a little bit of what I was getting at. Because at that time, that meditation that I was doing was all about, like, closing off the feelings, like unwanted emotions and shit. And kind of like, yeah, eliminating unwanted emotions, which brought up a lot of suppressed memories, which I think, like, at times was pretty stressful. So I wonder if that's, like, what was going on there. I don't know why I'm shutting off my headphones. Give me 1 minute. But I wonder if that's what was going on. I wonder if I was, like, inducing, like, a lot of, like, almost stress by bringing up suppressed memories.
Out of the normal zone. Normal comfort zone has to be lost. So sometimes it may happen in the case of just a sudden accident or something has happened, and in that state, it got triggered automatically once in a while. Okay, I'm not saying it's very common, but happens. So there it will be very difficult to integrate because you don't know what to do with it afterwards. It's very difficult. It's like suddenly portals may open up and suddenly you may start seeing things, etc. Most people will put you straight into a mental asylum. Doctors will put you into medicines. You will not know what to do. And on top of that, if your belief system does not support this, then you are even more screwed.
The energy is so powerful that there are cases when it has suddenly...
I guess that's why I'm a little lucky there. My belief system is so woo-woo and spiritual that seeing bright flashing light, I immediately, like, it was really interesting. Not very scary. Not scary at all. Interesting. Went to Google. Accepted what I read. Moved on.
And the body and the mind is not able to cope with it, and people become somewhat semi-crazy.
When you say crazy, what happens?
Suddenly there's a spurt of energy which they don't know how to place, how to control. They sort of behave in strange ways.
And maybe some people might consider them to be possessed.
Yes, possible. Or mad. They're not actually mad. They're seeing things and hearing things and going with because something has happened in them.
So these simultaneous triggers can occur either due to stress or some other factor, which I will elaborate on later. When the inner force awakens, suddenly you can see a different reality around you, one that the majority still can perceive. But what if there is a certain way to awaken this dormant force? Remember, it can be very dangerous if you don't have a proper guidance.
And yogis of India, I think, are at the root of many of these. I don't know these stories. They're probably the most sophisticated, I would say, of the shamans who have explored consciousness. That in an almost scientific manner.
Now, this actually happens. There are techniques to do this, but the Eastern people, the yogis, have developed systems to do this, to push the nervous system rapidly. But it happens very often spontaneously without someone trying to do anything about it, and just happens.
The fundamental life force in the existence, we call it Kundalini. Now, within the system, within the human system, if you look at this as a kind of a life package, it's a piece of life. This piece of life is packed in a certain way with layers of this energy. One dimension of energy comes alive immediately because that is necessary for your survival process. The other dimensions of energy will not come alive unless you do something about it. Unless you're aware of it and activate it in a certain way, they do not come into existence. They remain dormant. The dormant energy is way bigger than the energy that is in use right now. If you activate this dimension of energy, other dimensions of life will open up. One thing is, are you ready for those dimensions?
Right.
Kundalini Yoga in its essence is the most dangerous form of yoga. I'm saying dangerous because it's the most potent also. What is most potent is always the most dangerous, if improperly handled. Without expert guidance, constant guidance and observation, nobody should ever attempt it. Otherwise, Kundalini Yoga can transform the way you are within days. Suddenly you find you are a stranger in your own home within 2 days of practice, because it will change everything about you.
It is crazy. I had like a snap too at that time, like a total like snap. Like just like there was one time like I was doing that emotional elimination meditation. Suddenly I just had like all this peace hit me, and it was I think there's something during that meditation just clicked, and I was like at like extreme peace for like 2 or 3 days, but I didn't really know how to like sustain it. And also I was like just in this world of unpeace and like people that just didn't get it, you know? And also I think there was fear of being crazy. So in a way I'm lucky to have gotten out of it. I don't know. I watched a video of this dude who went crazy earlier this morning, and I was like, wouldn't want that to happen to me.
So can we raise the Kundalini? Yes, we can. One way is to create a conducive atmosphere so that slowly it rises. The other way is to provoke it in such a way that it raises quickly. If it rises quickly, then everything changes dramatically. If it rises slowly over a period of time, changes will happen slowly, you will be capable of handling these changes over a period of time. But if it happens very quick, then you will not be able to handle the changes. Things will look like things are falling apart. There are 112 ways in which you can take this up. Out of these 114 chakras, there are 7 which we recognize as 7 dimensions. Out of this, 6 are within the body, 1 just outside the physical body. So if you employ these 112 methods, you will handle the 6th chakras. The 7th one you cannot handle. There are 112 ways in which you can attain to a chakra which we refer to as Agna. But from Agna to Sahasrara, there is no way. There is no way to do it. You just have to jump into an abyss. If you have to jump into an abyss, you should be insane, or you should have enormous trust in somebody.
So there, once it opens up is good, but what do you do after that? And that is where you will need solid guidance, because otherwise there are more people who fall down with these kind of experiences than people who integrate them properly in their life. And after this little bit of the Kundalini movement, when it starts, your normal life is going for a toss. First of all, your perspective of everything is going to change.
This is a great point you've mentioned, sir. basically it's like a brain has filters which filters out a lot of stuff, because if we
Perfect.
were able to see that stuff, we
Yeah,
would have lost our minds.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's around us now
Yes,
as we speak.
Yes.
But
yes.
your gross body consciously blocks it out because maybe your soul is not ready to experience those experiences.
Right.
Now, if you also begin to spiritually advance and you chase this process of making your Kundalini rise, those filters get removed from your brain.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's
Creative
another
energy is
thing
all-
too that who's basically a billionaire told me. Right before I started to get into those meditations, he like warned me to not do it because I would change. And then he learned I had no kids and no wife and no whatever. And then he was like, then don't worry about it. Just do it. But his warning was to not get involved in it if I was married and with kids, because there was a chance I would change so much that I would just leave. I would just leave the situation. Which is interesting.
Always depicted as feminine. So this Parashakti, after having done all its work, in the human being, where does it operate? First, it operates as sex. This energy creates another human being. It's a creative energy. Now, this energy, after having made a child, doesn't dissipate. It stays. Where does it stay? In the bottom of the spine, in the center called the Muladhara.
Your lowest chakra.
Lower center. Lowest not in the sense of low and high, but in the bottommost.
Physically.
Physically
placed
low.
in this.
Yes. So it stays there. Now the yogi, what he does, he controls it and turns it around and makes it ascend the spine. When it ascends the spine, then the Kundalini or the Shakti, whatever you want to call Bhujangi, becomes a spiritually creative energy, just as it becomes a physically creative energy through sex.
Now I wonder if that's why, we follow this line of logic, saying your energy's in the nuts. But you have the sexual energy, and you can move it upwards and like get more in tune with whatever, right? I wonder if that's why there might be so much sexuality in the world. Conspiracy theory time. Is it so that we release that energy so we don't harness that energy and move it upwards? Are they keeping that from us?
So this inner force is known as Kundalini in esoteric Hindu teachings, while in esoteric Kabbalah teachings it's referred to as Merkaba. Merkaba mysticism focuses on exploring the inner workings of the divine and spiritual realms through meditation and practices. These techniques have been integral to secret societies since ancient times, including the Eleusinian mysteries in ancient Greece.
There is no me.
There's no you.
No.
We're not here. This is a dream?
There's just things happening. And there are clusters of tetrahedrons moving around together.
Okay.
It's not our world.
None
That's
of
the
this is
key.
real?
Nope.
So you're just passing
We don't
through.
matter.
The Monroe Institute and the Gateway Experience share the same purpose, to awaken.
That clip is tough. I'm fully with Mr. Carey. Kind of have been since the beginning, but I think most of the world aligns with this interviewer here. And no shame to him, right? Because this is like far out, weird, whatever shit. Seems off his rocker, but this whole video is about being off your rocker a bit, off the what society wants you to believe in things, all that shit.
The Monroe Institute and the Gateway Experience share the same purpose, to awaken this inner energy through specific frequency and meditation. They even incorporate certain affirmations and the sound Om during the Gateway Experience. The Kozyrev mirror operates on a similar principle by constructing mirror or light-reflecting material walls to block the electromagnetic forces, allowing individuals to awaken their inner energy. The mystical prophet Nostradamus employed similar techniques while he was making his prophecies. Baba Vanga, the famous seer from the Balkans, experienced an awakening of her inner force due to stress after losing her eyesight during a tornado storm. I can make a part 2 about this topic, focusing more on the symbolism and the secret and ancient teachings, so let me know if you are interested. Now let's explore the event that might cause a global sudden awakening of this inner force or the real apocalypse.
Oh, and we're back to it.
I've written many texts about the ancient catastrophic events and the ones foretold by our ancestors. In my opinion, it involves the magnetic pole shift, the increased solar activity, and the weakening of the Earth's magnetic field. We can delve into the details in another video, but here's my opinion on how that event will affect us mentally and physically. As Chen Thomas stated in his book The Adam and Eve Story, experiments with rats living in a lower magnetic field made them more aggressive and violent. Ancient texts predict that at the end of time people will become more aggressive and even wars will erupt. As I stated at the beginning of this video, the sun and the electromagnetic field have a huge impact on our nervous system. People will not be aware of what is happening as reality starts to change, so they will become confused and aggressive.
I have a feeling that now people seeing this happening, floods, sea levels are rising, icebergs are melting, cruelty in human beings in general is increasing. All kinds of things are happening. Of course, there is one side where spiritual, yeah. So I think the young person also has begun to think, because the future belongs to the young, begun to think that this is not everything, there must be something more to it.
Like spiritual.
Definitely, because we in India are lucky because we have been exposed to it for so many years, which may not be the case with other people. So people have begun to think, is there something more than this? Is this all there is to? Are we going to die suddenly of an earthquake or something happening? How many people died in Turkey recently? Right? So all these disasters are a pointer towards saying, well, this is not everything. There is something more than this, which can never be created or destroyed.
Had your master told you that a difficult time will come?
Yes, he did.
And
many of the things he said are happening now. And that time I used to think that maybe some things will happen, some may not happen, but many things which he said are happening. Sea level rising, when he said that, I couldn't believe it at that time. He said the ice in Antarctica will melt. He said there will be earthquakes in the Himalayas. I said it is a sacred place. He said, yeah, but it is still a physical system. It can happen. He said the young people will also get interested in spiritual matters, and this is important to prevent disasters in future. He said they are the people going to take over next in this world.
Hell yeah, dude, I'm taking over next, bro. Straight from his mouth, because I'm interested in spiritual matters.
That they go with this understanding and background, which is why I also try to concentrate on the young. I go to satsangs. When I see more young people, I'm really happy.
Is this signed off as a difficult decade for humans?
Yes.
The 20s?
A very difficult decade for humans, but once we cross this, we will come out better.
Wait,
it's a reformatory.
It's just 10 years?
Purification.
Broadens and the senses change due to stress, the effect of the magnetic
field
and the radiation of the sun, they will start perceiving different creatures. These are ancient paintings found in Australia and America. Also in the Book of Revelation, at the end of time, giant locusts are emerging from the ground to torment the people. Only a small number of enlightened people will know what is happening, and after the catastrophic events and the Great Flash, humanity might start over, this time as a more evolved species with new senses. It's possible that evolution is triggered and happens suddenly due to extreme events like this study suggests. However, there are certain twists, and this means there are other more evolved beings than us, and some of them might be the Watchers.
So that's that. Looks like we're heading for doom. Looks like we're headed for doom, unless you can get spiritually awakened enough to do something. I don't know. That was wild and weird and crazy. Strange. I feel like at the end there he said that it's just in the 20s now. We're 5 years through it. A lot can happen in one day, but I don't know. Have these theories always been going on? I mean, there's that joke about like all the little sects of religions and spiritual groups that have their doomsdays, and then the day comes, nothing happens, and they got the day wrong. I don't know. If you like this video, please give me a like, subscribe if you want, even though we don't watch this shit all the time. I don't know. Thanks for watching. Peace out.